The mansion was unnervingly silent on the morning before the wedding. Jeremy adjusted the cuffs of his navy suit, prepared for another day at the office, when the whir of an electric motor broke the stillness. His mother, Madame Sarah, glided into the room in her wheelchair. "Jeremy, sit," she commanded, her voice trembling yet sharp. Obediently, he crouched beside her, holding her fragile hands the way he always did. Hands that had sacrificed everything to raise him, that had never let go of his own, not even in the hardest years. He searched her face, expecting warmth. Instead, he found steel. "My son," she whispered, "you cannot marry Anita." The air turned heavy. Jeremy's chest tightened, as though the room itself had conspired to crush him. "Mama, what are you saying?" Sarah unlocked her phone and tapped play. From the speaker came Anita's voice, smooth, confident, ruthless. "Calm down. All the plans are in place. I don't love him at all. After the wedding, once I have access to his company's accounts, I'll drain everything. I'll also use his company to defraud a foreign investor of $1 million. By then, he'll be behind bars. Let's see how his overprotective mother saves him then." Jeremy's heart stopped. His palms went cold. His mouth opened, but no words emerged. Where did you get this?" "I was in the hallway last night," Sarah said, her voice quivering but unyielding. "She thought I was asleep. I heard everything." The recording ended. Silence pressed down like a physical weight. And then, the doorbell rang. Flashback, 24 hours earlier. The mansion had been alive with wedding preparations. Workers trailed fabric samples through the hall. Photographers tested light against the marble. A decorator fussed over flower arrangements beneath the chandelier. The house gleamed like a set designed for a fairy tale. In the middle of it all sat Madame Sarah, 75, small yet unshakable in her wheelchair. She wore a green Ankara dress with a matching head tie, the color of renewal, though her eyes revealed only caution. She had lived through hunger, widowhood, and decades of sacrifice. Since Lucas's death, she had sworn never to remarry, never to divide her devotion. Every coin saved, every shoe worn thin, every prayer whispered in the dark, everything had been for Jeremy. Now her son was a billionaire CEO, the pride of her life. But Anita, beautiful, confident, armed with a smile sharp enough to open doors, Anita carried herself like a queen who had just discovered her palace. She laughed generously, blessed the cooks, charmed the decorators, and called Sarah Mama with saccharine sweetness. Yet there were moments, fleeting but real, when the mask slipped. Her smile vanished. Her eyes hardened. Sarah noticed. That evening, when the house quieted, Anita lingered in the kitchen. Her phone buzzed. She glanced toward Sarah's room, unaware that the old woman had rolled quietly into the hallway for a glass of warm water. Sarah froze at the sound of Anita's words. "Just 48 hours to the wedding. Calm down. Everything is ready. Once I have his accounts, I'll clean them out. The investor deal is perfect. He'll be the one behind bars, not me." Sarah's body trembled. She pressed record. Her breath shallow. She listened as Anita plotted, smiling to herself when the call ended. The young woman poured juice, checked her nails, and hummed as though nothing had happened. Sarah wheeled back into her room in silence. And then she wept, not loudly, but the way strong people cry when no one is watching. The night dragged on with the weight of revelation. Sarah clutched the recording like a weapon forged from grief and vigilance. She prayed until her throat ached, until the dawn bled into the sky with a gray, reluctant light. By morning, Jeremy descended the grand staircase, humming faintly, the navy suit sharp against his frame. His smile was that of a man stepping into his future. He spotted his mother by the window. "Mama, how are you this morning?" Her gaze did not soften. "Sit, my son." He did. He clasped her hands, as he always had, but her grip this time carried the tremor of urgency. "Jeremy," she whispered, "remember how we suffered? How we climbed one step at a time? Your wealth is not luck. It is pain that learned to walk. I swore I would protect you." "Mama," his smile faded. And so she told him. The hallway, the call, the words. She pressed play again. Jeremy listened. His face drained of color. He pressed play once more, as though repetition might bend reality. It did not. Finally, he exhaled, his voice jagged. "Anita." He pressed his palms to his face, then called the Johnsons. His tone remained steady, though every word cost him. "I'm sorry. The wedding is canceled. A gasp from the other end. Demands. Pleading. He hung up. Then he leaned his forehead against his mother's. Thank you, Mama. The doorbell rang. Jeremy opened the door to find Anita, radiant, clutching a ribboned box. Her smile gleamed, practiced and perfect. Baby, a little surprise for our big day, she sang. Jeremy didn't step aside. His silence cut sharper than anger. Is Mama inside? She asked, peering past him. In the living room, Sarah sat waiting like a judge, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Anita entered, perfume trailing like an invading flag. Mama, good morning, she beamed, placing the box on the glass table. A gift for you. Thank you, Sarah replied, her tone unreadable. Sit. Anita obeyed. She looked from mother to son, uneasy. Is everything okay? Sarah turned her chair slightly, facing her. Yesterday evening, you made a call in the kitchen. Anita's lashes fluttered. Yes, my cousin. She called to congratulate me. Sarah tapped her phone. The play icon glowed red on the table. Jeremy's voice was low. Pressing play will change everything. Anita's smile wavered. What is this? A chance, Jeremy said. To tell the truth before the truth tells itself. For the first time, her mask cracked. Her hands tightened around the box. Before another word could be spoken, Jeremy's phone buzzed. The caller ID, Barrister Jude. Anita's eyes darted to the screen, then back to the phone on the table. Don't, she said, her voice softer now. The doorbell rang again, louder. Jeremy frowned. He opened the door. Two men in dark suits stood outside, IDs raised. A black SUV idled at the gate. Federal Investigation Unit, the taller one announced. We need to speak with Miss Anita Johnson. Jeremy's heart dropped. He stepped aside. Anita froze. Me? What's this about? We have reason to believe you've been involved in a fraud scheme targeting foreign investors, the officer said. We received a tip. And evidence. His eyes flicked toward Sarah. Anita stammered. This is a mistake. Baby, tell them. I love you. Jeremy's jaw clenched. Do you? The shorter officer snapped handcuffs around her wrists. The box she carried fell to the marble floor with a hollow thud, glass shattering inside. Jeremy, please. Anita cried, mascara streaking. It was just talk. I didn't mean it. Don't let them take me. Talk. Jeremy's voice was cold. You called ruining my life talk? Sarah's words cut through. If you meant no harm, why speak it when you thought no one was listening? Anita faltered. No answer came. She was dragged toward the door. Her phone slipped from her pocket, skidding across the floor. Jeremy picked it up. A message blinked on the screen. Don't worry. After the wedding, we move. The money is ours. Jeremy's voice darkened. Who is Jay? Her silence was deafening. The SUV door slammed. Tires crunched gravel. Silence flooded back into the house, heavy and unforgiving. Jeremy shut the door and collapsed to his knees beside his mother. Mama, if you hadn't heard that call. Sarah stroked his hair. That is why God kept me alive this long, to protect you. Before Jeremy could respond, his phone rang again. Barrister Nicholas, his lawyer. Jeremy, Nicholas said urgently, I've just been served. Anita's family is suing you for $1 million in damages, claiming humiliation and trauma. We must prepare for court. Jeremy's blood chilled. He looked at his mother. Her hand tightened over his. The battle had only begun. By the next morning, Jeremy's name was on every blog, every tabloid, every screen. Billionaire cancels wedding. Anita Johnson sues CEO for $1 million. Was love a scam? Journalists camped outside his mansion in Ikoyi. Every time he stepped out, cameras fired like machine guns, microphones thrust at his face. Mr. Jeremy, is it true you dumped Anita because your mother disapproved? Sir, is it true Anita was plotting fraud against your company? Is Madam Sarah behind this decision? Does she control your life? Jeremy said nothing. His eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, his mother's wheelchair rolling beside him. He walked past the chaos with a fortress of silence. Inside the mansion, however, silence gave no comfort. Sarah sat by the window, hands folded, her face calm but shadowed. Jeremy paced, phone glued to his ear as Barrister Nicholas briefed him. They filed in Lagos Federal High Court, Nicholas said. Anita's lawyer, Barrister Jude, is pushing for damages on grounds of emotional trauma, public humiliation, and breach of trust. They want $1 million. Jeremy halted mid-stride. And if we refuse? They'll drag your name through the mud. The public already loves the jilted bride story. They'll paint you as arrogant, cold, a man who toyed with her heart. We need to fight with facts, not feelings. Jeremy's jaw tightened. We have facts. Mama recorded her confession. Anita is no victim, she's a predator. Then prepare to prove it in open court, Nicholas said. This won't be private. It will be national scandal. The day of the hearing arrived like a storm. The Lagos Federal High Court swarmed with journalists, photographers, and spectators hungry for drama. Inside, every bench was filled. On one side sat Anita, dressed in white lace, her face powdered pale, her eyes glistening with rehearsed tears. Beside her sat her parents, the Johnsons. Her father, stern yet weary, looked 10 years older in a week. Her mother gripped Anita's hand tightly, refusing to look Jeremy's way. On the other side sat Jeremy in a black tailored suit, calm but coiled like a spring. Barrister Nicholas flipped through files with the ease of a man used to battle. Sarah, in her green head tie, sat proudly in her wheelchair at the front row, gaze fixed on the judge's bench like a general awaiting orders. All rise, the clerk's voice thundered. For his lordship, Justice Pius Okada. The judge entered, glasses sliding down his nose, his expression unreadable. The room stood, then settled. Barrister Jude rose first, tall and eloquent, his words flowing like honey laced with venom. My lord, he began, we are here because a young woman has been disgraced before an entire nation. Anita Johnson, a bride-to-be, was abandoned a day before her wedding. Her dreams shattered, her family humiliated, her reputation dragged into the mud, all because Jeremy, Billionaire CEO, listened to baseless suspicions and cruel gossip. Is that justice? No, my lord. This is psychological torture, emotional trauma, public ridicule. For this, my client demands $1 million in damages. Sympathy rippled through the crowd. Reporters scribbled furiously. Anita dabbed at her eyes with a white handkerchief. Jeremy's fists tightened under the table. His mother gently patted his arm, steadying him. Then Nicholas stood, calm and deliberate, his voice deep. My lord, my colleague has spoken with passion, but passion is not proof. This court must rule not on tears, but on truth. And the truth is simple. Anita Johnson never loved my client. She sought to marry him only to gain access to his company's accounts. She plotted to defraud foreign investors, vanish, and leave him behind bars. This is not love. This is fraud. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Objection, Jude shouted, springing to his feet. Baseless accusations. My lord, this is defamation. Nicholas raised a hand calmly. Baseless? Then let us hear from Anita herself. He pressed play. Anita's voice filled the courtroom, cold and calculating. Just 48 hours to the wedding. Calm down. All the plans are in place. I don't love him one bit. Once I have his company's accounts, I'll wipe them out. I'll defraud a foreign investor of $1 million. Then I'll vanish, and he'll be behind bars. Let's see how his overprotective mother saves him then. The words ricocheted through the courtroom like bullets. Anita's face went pale. No, that's not me. That's not me. Nicholas handed stamped call logs to the judge. This, my lord, is not gossip. It is her voice, her plan, her words. The judge scanned the papers, his frown deepening. Mr. Johnson buried his face in his palms. Anita's mother shook her head, whispering, No, no, not my daughter. The crowd buzzed. Reporters scribbled like possessed men. Cameras clicked in rapid fire. Order, the judge roared, slamming his gavel. Silence fell like a blade. Miss Johnson, the judge said, his eyes sharp as steel. Do you deny this is your voice? Anita stammered. I was angry. It was a joke. Just a joke. The judge leaned forward, his voice heavy. A joke about fraud? A joke about destroying a man's life? Her silence was answer enough. This court, Justice Okada said, cannot reward deception. The evidence speaks clearly. The plaintiff's case is dismissed. Jeremy's decision to cancel the wedding was justified. Any further legal action from the Johnson family will be treated as contempt. Gasps swept the room. Anita's mother broke into tears. Her father rose slowly, walked to Jeremy, and extended a trembling hand. I am sorry, son. I never knew. Jeremy nodded, his eyes burning. Anita covered her face and rushed from the courtroom. chased by journalists hurling questions. Anita, was it all a scam? Who is Jay in your messages? Why target Jeremy? She ran, her heels clicking like gunshots on the marble floor. Jeremy turned to his mother, kneeling beside her, tears escaping at last. Mama, you saved me again. Sarah stroked his cheek gently. That's what mothers do. But as they left through a back exit, Jeremy's phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. This is not over. She wasn't working alone. Jeremy's stomach twisted. He showed it to his mother. Sarah's eyes narrowed. My son, she said, her voice low. The girl was only a puppet. Someone else is pulling the strings. Jeremy's jaw clenched. Jay, he whispered. The message on her phone. The money is ours, Jay. Who is Jay? The war had only just begun. That evening, Jeremy summoned an emergency council in the mansion study. The chandelier glowed over maps, laptops, and stacks of files. Barrister Nicholas sat with his sleeves rolled up, flipping through legal drafts. Kelvin, Jeremy's COO and old friend, leaned forward with furrowed brows. Musa, head of security, stood by the door like a soldier awaiting orders. Nicholas spoke first. We won today, but if someone else is involved, they'll strike again. Whoever this Jay is, Anita was only their weapon. Jeremy, you're a billionaire CEO. That makes you a target. Kelvin nodded grimly. If they hit us through investors or slip past our financial system, it won't just damage your reputation, it could end the company. Moose's eyes narrowed. Boss, give me the order. I'll have my men trace Anita's phone, find out who Jay really is. Jeremy nodded. Do it, no matter the cost. But Sarah, from her wheelchair, cut through the room with her voice. Jeremy, wolves don't always come from the forest. Sometimes they come from within the fold. Don't just look outside. Look inside your own house. Her words chilled the room. The next day, Moose's men delivered their findings. Hours of tracing calls, texts, encrypted messages, all pointing to one man. The number belonged to Julius Banadil. Jeremy froze at the name. Kelvin frowned. Julius? The head of finance? The Harvard graduate you hired last year? The one the oil executives recommended? Yes, Jeremy muttered, rage building. The man I trusted. Nicholas adjusted his glasses. It makes sense. Anita couldn't have carried out such a complex plan alone. She needed someone inside. Julius had access to everything. Jeremy slammed his fist on the glass table. And I brought him in myself. Sarah rolled closer, her eyes sharp. My son, betrayal often wears the mask of loyalty. Do not blame yourself. But now that you know the snake, cut off its head before it strikes. Jeremy exhaled slowly. We confront him tomorrow. The following morning, Jeremy entered his company's headquarters in Victoria Island with his mother at his side. The office buzzed with energy, phones ringing, staff whispering behind their screens. Everyone had seen the news. Everyone knew about the scandal. Inside the boardroom, Julius was already waiting. Sharp suit, calm smile, polished confidence. He stood and extended a hand. Boss, congratulations on winning in court. I always suspected that girl Anita wasn't genuine. Jeremy stared at him, silent. Then he slid Anita's phone across the table. On the screen, the message glowed. The money is ours, Jay. Julius's eyes flickered. For a fraction of a second, his mask cracked. But then he forced a laugh. Boss, come on. Someone's framing me. You think I'd be foolish enough to leave my name there? Jeremy's voice was low, dangerous. We traced the number. It's yours. You plotted with Anita to destroy me. To take the company. Julius's smile collapsed. He leaned back in his chair, cufflinks glinting. Slowly, he exhaled. So what if it's true? Do you think you built all this alone? Investors trusted you because of luck, not brilliance. Men like me, men with vision, deserve to be at the top. Anita was only the beginning. Jeremy's chest burned. You call betrayal vision? Julius smirked. I call it survival. Sarah's voice cut across the tension, calm and cold. And where has survival without honor ever ended, Julius? Men like you climb fast, but fall faster. Mark this day. Your fall has begun. Jeremy stood. You're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. And don't think this ends here. The law will deal with you. Moose's men moved forward. Julius snarled, his voice breaking into curses. You'll regret this, Jeremy. You think your mother can protect you forever? This game is bigger than you. When you fall, no one will catch you. His words echoed as he was dragged from the room. Jeremy sank into his chair, shaken. Sarah wheeled closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. You did well, my son. But do not relax. A snake rarely travels alone. That night, Jeremy stood on his balcony, Lagos glittering beneath him. But the city lights offered no peace. His phone buzzed. A new message, no name attached. Cut off Julius all you want. The real game has just started. Tomorrow, you'll see. Jeremy's stomach knotted. He turned to see Sarah watching him through the glass door, her face lined with concern. He knelt beside her, whispering, Mama, what if they come again? What if they destroy everything? She cupped his face with trembling hands. Jeremy, your father built this family on honesty. I raised you on sacrifice. Our destiny cannot be stolen. Storms may rage, but you will stand. And I will pray until my last breath. Jeremy hugged her tightly. But before the embrace could soften his fear, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video file. Jeremy pressed play. Julius appeared on the screen, seated in a dimly lit room, his smile twisted. I told you, Jeremy. The game is bigger than Anita. Bigger than me. Tomorrow, your company loses everything. Watch closely, the countdown has begun. The video ended with a timer flashing, midnight. Jeremy's hands shook. He showed it to his mother. For the first time, Sarah's calm face faltered. My son, she whispered. This is war. By midnight, the study became a war room. Kelvin, Nicholas, and Musa gathered once more. Screens glowed with streams of code. The timer ticked down. Musa slammed a fist on the table. Boss, this is cyber-sabotage. Julius planted something inside the servers. By tomorrow, $1 million will be gone, routed offshore in your name. Kelvin cursed. If that transfer goes through, the EFCC and international authorities will arrest you. You'll be branded a thief. Sarah's knuckles gripped the arms of her chair. Then stop it. Do not let them take what we built. Jeremy's voice hardened. We stop this tonight. By evening, the server room buzzed with heat and tension. IT experts typed furiously, their faces pale under the flickering light. The worm wriggled deeper with every attempt to block it. 20 minutes left, one whispered. Jeremy hovered behind the lead technician. Status. We've isolated the worm, sir, but it keeps opening back doors. It's too familiar, like someone designed it knowing our system inside out. Jeremy's pulse quickened. Run the access logs. Names scrolled across the screen. Then, Jeremy froze. One name stood out like a knife to the chest. Kelvin. He turned slowly to his COO, his friend of years. Kelvin's face drained of color. Moose's hand slid toward his holster. Boss, do you want me to? Jeremy's voice cracked with fury. Kelvin, why is your name in the logs? Kelvin's mask shattered. He dropped his pen, his hands shaking. Jeremy, listen. I introduced Julius. I opened the door. I thought it was just a side deal, just skimming off investors. I didn't know he'd try to destroy you. I didn't know Anita was involved. Jeremy's world tilted. You betrayed me. Kelvin's voice broke. I was drowning in debts. Julius promised to fix it. I thought I could control it. But now, it's bigger than me. The timer blinked 1,500 hours. Jeremy's eyes burned. Mama and I prayed for this company. We sacrificed everything. And you? Sarah's voice sliced through. Jeremy, anger won't save you now. Stop the transfer first. Mourn betrayal later. Jeremy inhaled sharply. Musa, secure him. IT, kill that worm. The room erupted, fingers hammering keyboards, alarms buzzing, seconds bleeding away. 5 minutes left, someone shouted. The worm is locked with a password, the technician cried. Kelvin's clearance. Jeremy turned to him, his voice a growl. The password. Kelvin's lips trembled. Even if I give it, Julius will come back. You'll never win this war. The password. Finally, Kelvin whispered, Lucas 75. Jeremy froze. His father's name. His father's birth year. A betrayal carved into memory. Type it. The technician entered it. The system beeped. The worm froze. The transfer halted. The timer stopped at 0:07. The room erupted in cheers. Jeremy didn't cheer. He sank into a chair, trembling. Victory had never felt so heavy. The following morning, news spread like wildfire. Finance head arrested in Abuja hideout. Corporate betrayal rocks billionaire's empire. CEO Jeremy fights off $1 million cyber heist. Julius was dragged out of a dingy apartment, his expensive suit wrinkled, his defiance silenced by handcuffs. Kelvin, meanwhile, was handed over to the authorities, his face pale, his eyes hollow. Betrayal had carved his features deeper than prison ever could. Nigeria watched in fascination. Some hailed Jeremy as a man who defeated treachery. Others whispered that he had simply been lucky. But Jeremy himself felt neither victorious nor vindicated. The cost had been too high. His company survived, yes. His freedom intact, yes. But he had lost two men he once trusted, one a hired confidant, the other a brother in business. Through it all, Sarah remained by his side. Every headline, every accusation, every late-night whisper of self-doubt, she countered with her quiet presence. She had seen betrayal before, in life's harsher forms: poverty, loneliness, sacrifice. And she reminded him gently, "What is broken in trust must never break you, my son." Months passed. At a national summit in Abuja, Jeremy met Isabella. She was no queen of appearances, no schemer with a mask, but a gentle and brilliant accountant whose voice carried calm authority. She spoke of numbers the way poets spoke of love: precise, steady, unwavering. Their connection was quiet but instant. Unlike Anita, Isabella did not flood the room with charm. She anchored it with substance. For the first time since the storm, Jeremy felt something close to peace. Introducing her to Sarah was the final test. His mother studied Isabella with sharp, seasoned eyes, then smiled. A rare, genuine smile. Tears shimmered as she whispered, "This one, Jeremy. This is the right one. Don't waste time." Jeremy did not. 2 months later, he and Isabella were married in Lagos. The ceremony was elegant but intimate. No grand spectacle, no tabloids chasing a scandal. Only family, close friends, and the quiet dignity of vows spoken from the heart. Sarah sat proudly in the front row, her green head tie shining like a crown. For once, there was no betrayal lurking in the shadows. Only hope. A year later, Isabella gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Sarah, after the woman whose devotion had saved them both. The old woman wept as she cradled the child in her arms under the garden sun. Wrinkled fingers stroked soft skin, and she whispered, "This was all I prayed for. My son safe, my son loved, and a new Sarah to carry on." Jeremy knelt beside her, wrapping both mother and daughter in his embrace. "Mama, you saved me twice, once when I was a boy, and again on the day of my wedding. I owe everything to you." The elder Sarah smiled faintly, "And I would do it 1,000 times more." 10 years drifted by. Little Sarah grew into a bright, curious girl. Every evening she sat by her grandmother's side in the garden, listening to folk tales of tortoise and hare, of kindness and betrayal, of wisdom hard-earned through scars. Jeremy's empire expanded across Africa. Isabella managed the family's foundation, ensuring their wealth touched lives beyond their walls. Peace, at last, seemed permanent. Until one morning, when 11-year-old Sarah ran into the garden to greet her grandmother and found her still. Her hands folded neatly in her lap, her head tilted as though in gentle sleep. But Madame Sarah had slipped quietly away in the night, her duty fulfilled. The mansion wept that day. At her funeral, dignitaries, businessmen, and neighbors alike paid tribute. But Jeremy stood above them all, holding Isabella's hand and little Sarah's, his voice breaking as he whispered over the grave, "Mama, you saved me until the very end, and I will never forget." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying his words upward, as though to reassure him. She had heard. Grief eventually softened into memory. Jeremy poured his energy into fatherhood, into Isabella, into building an empire free of the shadows that once haunted him. Years passed like chapters. Sarah grew into a young woman with her grandmother's fierce spirit and her mother's intellect. Isabella remained Jeremy's anchor, steady as the years accumulated. The storm had ended. Or so it seemed. A decade had passed since the mansion went silent with the departure of Madame Sarah. Yet her presence lingered in every room, every marble surface, every garden breeze. Jeremy had grown older, his once black hair threaded with silver, his face marked by both triumph and exhaustion. But even with the weight of years, there was a calm strength in his eyes, the kind only found in those who had wrestled storms and survived. Isabella was still beside him, steady as ever. Where Anita had once carried a mask, Isabella carried truth. Their daughter, young Sarah, now stood tall, No longer the child who once clutched her grandmother's hands in the garden, but a woman with ambition sharp enough to carve her own future. She had inherited her grandmother's vigilance, her father's sharp intellect, and her mother's quiet wisdom. Every evening, the garden that had once been Madame Sarah's throne of storytelling became Sarah's stage. Children gathered from across the neighborhood, barefoot, wide-eyed, eager. She told them tales of tortoise and hare, of betrayal and loyalty, of storms and calm seas. But she also told new stories, stories of a grandmother who had saved a company with a single recording, of a father who had turned betrayal into strength, of a family that had built something from ashes. Jeremy often stood in the shadows, listening, his chest swelling with pride. Every word she spoke was proof that his mother's spirit had not vanished. It had simply found a new voice. The empire continued to grow. Jeremy's company expanded across Africa, partnering with global players, introducing new technologies, and training young entrepreneurs. But more important than the balance sheets was the Sarah Foundation, named for both the grandmother who had guarded the family and the daughter who carried the name forward. The foundation built schools, funded scholarships, trained women in finance and technology, and pulled children from the streets into classrooms. Each plaque carried the same inscription: "Destiny cannot be stolen." At the 10-year anniversary of the foundation, Jeremy stood on stage. Cameras flashed, officials and dignitaries applauded, but his words were not for them. "My mother taught me that wealth without sacrifice is hollow. My wife taught me that love is not weakness. And my daughter teaches me every day that legacy is not about buildings or money. It is about people. Tonight is not about me. It is about them." The hall erupted in applause, but Jeremy's eyes found only Sarah's. She nodded, and in her gaze he saw the future, steady and unbreakable. Sarah came of age under the weight of expectation. She was brilliant, top of her class, with a natural gift for numbers and strategy. At 18, she developed a financial literacy program for rural communities, teaching children and widows how to manage money, save, and invest. The program spread across West Africa within a year. At the awards ceremony in London, she stood in front of an international audience, her voice clear and confident. "I am not here because of luck," she said. "I am here because a woman once sacrificed everything for her son, and because that son built a foundation not just for me, but for all of us. My story began before I was born, with my grandmother, Sarah." Jeremy, seated in the front row, felt tears prick his eyes. Isabella squeezed his hand. "Your mother would be proud." "She is," Jeremy whispered. "I feel her here." But with recognition came pressure. Sarah was courted by global firms, offered glamorous positions abroad. She considered them all, but every evening, she returned to the garden, hearing her grandmother's echo in the rustling leaves. Wolves do not always come from the forest. She declined the offers. "My place is here," she told her parents. "Nigeria raised me. Nigeria needs me." Jeremy smiled faintly. That was your grandmother's fire speaking. On her 21st birthday, Sarah stood in the mansion's garden surrounded by family, friends, and allies of the foundation. The chandeliers sparkled, the night air hummed with celebration. But when she stepped forward to speak, the room fell silent. "My grandmother built this home with sacrifice. My father rebuilt it with resilience. And I will carry it forward with vision. The Sarah Foundation is not an end, it is the beginning. We will expand into hospitals, technology hubs, and international partnerships. We will not just heal wounds, we will prevent them. This is our legacy." Applause thundered, but Jeremy's eyes brimmed with tears. He had spent years fighting shadows, but his daughter was bringing light. Time, however, is relentless. Jeremy's health began to wane in his 60s. The stress of decades caught up with him. He no longer strode into boardrooms with the same energy. Instead, he watched from the sidelines, proud as Sarah took the reins. One evening, he sat in the garden, gazing at the stars, when Sarah joined him. "Dad," she said softly, "do you ever miss Grandma?" "Every day," Jeremy replied. "Sometimes I think she's still here. In you. In the foundation. In the wind at night. She prayed for all of this, long before we saw it." Sarah smiled. Then her prayers worked. Jeremy chuckled faintly. They always did. Years later, when his time finally came, the nation mourned. Newspapers printed headlines in bold. "Jeremy Williams, the man who defeated betrayal." From scandal to legacy, a life of resilience. The end of an era, the beginning of another. At his funeral, thousands gathered. Politicians, businessmen, ordinary citizens whose lives had been touched by the foundation. But in the front row, it was Sarah who carried the weight of memory. She delivered the eulogy herself, her voice steady though her hands trembled. My father taught me that betrayal is not the end, that storms do not define you, how you stand in them does. He survived what would have destroyed lesser men, and because of that, he gave us a future. He was not perfect, but he was faithful to his family, to his company, to his country. Today, we bury a man, but we carry forward a destiny. The crowd wept. Isabella wept, but Sarah did not. She looked upward, as though speaking to both her father and grandmother at once. I will carry it now. That night, after the funeral, she returned to the mansion garden. The children had already gathered, waiting for stories. She sat where her grandmother once had, where her father once knelt in despair, and began to speak. She told them about wolves in sheep's clothing, about mothers who fight until their last breath, about how destiny cannot be stolen. The children listened, wide-eyed, hanging on every word. And when the evening wind moved gently through the leaves, Sarah smiled. She could hear it, the faintest echo of her grandmother's voice. A mother's duty never ends. It only changes hands.